There are fast cars, and then there are the ones no one expects to be. We're the most powerful available, and some of them were quick enough to make cars that should have beaten them uncomfortable. I want to see what kind of car you'd choose. 1973. Buick Estate Wagon. This car didn't look fast. It didn't even seem like it was trying to be, because everything about it communicated something else. Luxury, smoothness, massive size, that typical 70s Buick character that prioritized comfort above everything. This was a car for traveling, not for racing. But that wasn't the full story, because Buick had a very particular philosophy. It didn't need to be aggressive like Pontiac or extreme like Chevrolet, but it knew how to build cars that felt powerful, and here, it did it in a different way. The 455 V8, one of the biggest engines of the era, but tuned in a much more refined way. It wasn't chasing impressive numbers, it was chasing something else. Smooth delivery, continuous power, effortless movement. This wasn't a car that hit you all at once. It was a car that seemed to glide, but faster and faster. And that's what makes it interesting, because the feeling didn't come from an explosion of power. It came from how everything happened without drama. You pressed the accelerator, and the car simply moved forward, faster and faster, without making you fully realize what it was doing. And that's what made it deceptive, because from the outside, it still looked slow. It still looked heavy. It still looked like just another family car. But on the highway, especially at steady speeds, it showed something different. It didn't need to prove anything, but it never fell behind either. There's a key detail here. Buick was one of the brands that leaned hardest into the balance between luxury and silent performance. It didn't want the car to feel fast. It wanted it to be fast without making a scene. And this estate wagon is exactly that. And when you look at its value today, that's reflected too. A well-preserved Buick estate wagon typically ranges between $15,000 and $35,000, depending on condition and originality. 1987 Chevrolet Caprice. This car actually looked slow, and for the first time, it wasn't just an impression, because after everything we've seen so far, massive engines, absurd numbers, decades where performance was everywhere, this Caprice feels different, more restrained, more rational, more modern. But that's exactly what makes it interesting, because even though it doesn't play in the same league as the 70s giants, it's still not what it seems. By the late 80s, everything had changed. Regulations, emissions, fuel economy, engines were no longer what they used to be. And yet, Chevrolet was still offering a V8, the 305, around 170 to 190 horsepower, depending on the setup. Numbers that don't impress on paper, but serve a different purpose here, because this is no longer about brute force. It's about balance. This Caprice doesn't try to be fast. It tries to be enough. And it achieves that in a very particular way, because in real-world driving, in the city, on the highway, the car feels more agile than its size suggests. Lighter in its behavior, easier to handle. It doesn't surprise you with what it does, it surprises you with what you didn't expect it to do. And that puts it in a different category within this video, because this isn't a sleeper hiding a monster. It's a sleeper that breaks modern expectations. Everything about it says, this is heavy, slow, and boring. But it's not as much as you think. There's an interesting detail that helps explain it. These cars were used for years as official vehicles, taxis, family haulers, because they were reliable, comfortable, and capable enough for any situation. And that's the key. They didn't need to stand out. They just needed to work well. And when you look at their value today, that's reflected. A late 80s Caprice estate wagon typically ranges between $8,000 and $20,000, with very clean examples going a bit higher. It's not the most powerful. It's not the most impressive, but it's one of the best examples of how everything changed, because this car no longer tries to hide power. It tries to redefine what you expect from it, and in that, it works perfectly. 1991, Oldsmobile Custom Cruiser. This car felt like the end of an era, and in many ways, it was, because when you look at this custom cruiser, you're no longer seeing the excess of the 70s or the transition of the 80s. You're seeing the last attempt to keep an idea alive, one that was already fading away. A massive wagon, comfortable, built for families, but still with something under the hood. The 307 V8. It wasn't an impressive engine, and it didn't try to be. Around 140 to 170 horsepower, depending on the setup. Numbers that no longer competed with anything we've seen before. But that's not the point here, because this car doesn't rely on immediate surprise. It relies on contradiction. Everything about it feels disconnected from performance. Soft steering, soft suspension, total focus on comfort. And yet, It's not a dead car. It moves better than its size suggests. It responds with more ease than it looks capable of. And most importantly, it still carries that feeling of there's something left. It's not brute force. It's not raw speed. It's a kind of mechanical inertia that refuses to disappear. And that's what makes it interesting here. Because this is no longer a sleeper that surprises with power. It's one that surprises by still existing the way it does. There's an important detail. Full-size wagons like this quickly lost space in the market as minivans and SUVs took over, offering the same purpose in a more practical way. And this custom cruiser is part of that final chapter. And when you look at its value today, you can feel that. A well-preserved example typically ranges between $7,000 and $18,000, depending on condition. 1994 Chevrolet Caprice LT1. Unlike the previous ones, there's no mechanical ambiguity here. No interpretation, no more than it seems. This is very clear. An LT1, derived directly from the Corvette. And that changes everything. Because when you look at this Caprice, you still see a big, heavy, fully family-oriented wagon. That 90s design focused on comfort and space. Nothing about it screams performance. But under the hood, this is no ordinary V8. 5.7 liters. Around 260 horsepower. And more importantly, a much more modern response. More direct, faster, more real. Because this car no longer relies on feeling. It relies on what it actually does. 0 to 60 miles per hour in roughly 7 seconds. And that, in a wagon this size, shouldn't happen. And this is where the concept of the video becomes crystal clear. Because this car doesn't deceive with smoothness, it doesn't deceive with perception, it deceives with context. Because no one expects a 90s wagon to keep up with serious performance cars. But this one can, and that's no coincidence. The same drivetrain was used in police sedans for exactly that reason. Speed, durability, real capability. And this wagon shares that DNA. It is, quite literally, a family car with the soul of an interceptor. And that's the perfect contrast to close everything, because it all started with cars that hid their performance. And it ends with one that doesn't hide it as much, yet is still underestimated. And when you look at its value today, that's reflected as well. A well-preserved Caprice Wagon LT1 typically ranges between $12,000 and $30,000, with cleaner or modified examples going higher. It's not the rarest, but it's one of the most complete because this car doesn't look fast. But this time, it actually is. And in the end, it all comes down to one thing. Cars that no one takes seriously, but at the most unexpected moment, completely change the story. Some did it with brute force, others with deceptive smoothness, and others simply by breaking everything you expected from them. And now, I want to hear from you. Out of everything you've seen in this video, which one surprised you the most? Which one would you never expect to be like this? Let me know in the comments. And if you like these kinds of cars, the ones that look like one thing, but are something completely different, you need to watch this video. Here are the most beautiful wagons of the 1960s. Because if these surprised you for what they hide, those will surprise you for something entirely different. I'll see you in the next video.